Atia Degnidu, Your Excellencies. My name is Julian Aguon, and I've been commissioned to present this collective intervention on behalf of the Chamorro Nation and affiliated indigenous groups of Guam. I appear before you with the support and blessings of my elders. I address you on behalf of the indigenous Chamorro people of Guam, an endangered people now being rushed toward full-blown extinction. In 2008, the Chamorro people of Guam braced ourselves for a storm of U.S. militarization so enormous in scope, so volatile in nature, so irreversible in consequence. U.S. military realignment in the Asia-Pacific region seeks to home port 60% of its Pacific fleet in and around our ancient archipelago. With no input from the indigenous Chamorro people and over deepening dissent, the U.S. plans to flood Guam, its colony in perpetuity, with upwards of 50,000 people, which includes the 8,000 U.S. Marines and their 9,000 dependents being ousted by Okinawa, and an outside labor force estimated upwards of 20,000 workers on construction contracts. In addition, 6 nuclear submarines will be added to the 3 already stationed in Guam, as well as a monstrous global strike force, a strike and intelligence surveillance reconnaissance hub at Andersen Air Force Base. The buildup only complements the impressive Air Force and Navy show of force occupying 1/3 of our only 30-mile-long island already. This military expansionism exacts devastating consequences on my people, who make up only 37% of the 170,000 people living in Guam and who already suffer the signature maladies of a colonial condition. The militarization of Guam endangers our fundamental and inalienable human right to self-determination, the exercise of which our administering power, the United States, has strategically denied us in glaring betrayal of its international legal obligations under the UN Charter, the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, UN General Assembly Resolution 1514, to name just some. The unilateral decision to hyper-militarize our homeland is the latest in a long line of covenant breaches on the part of our administering power to guide Guam toward self-governance. It was made totally without consulting the indigenous people. No public education campaign regarding the social, cultural, and political consequences of this hyper-militarization has been seriously undertaken or even contemplated. For the last 3 years, we have appeared before the UN Special Political and Decolonization Committee, alerting that organ of the campaign of the Guam Chamber of Commerce, primarily consisting of U.S. stateside, to privatize every one of Guam's public resources, our island's only water provider, only power provider, only local telephone provider, public schools, and its only port, on an island that imports 85 to 90% of its food, and where private monopolies of public goods would truly make us captive to the forces of the market. In short, eating us whole. Not much has changed since we last were here in New York. Our power provider has been privatized, our telecommunications sold. Our only water provider and only port are under relentless attack. We are not Americans. We are Chamorros. We are heirs to an indigenous civilization born 2,000 years before Jesus, and we are being disappeared off your radar. All this, and only 2 years until the end of the second international decade for the eradication of colonialism, and no midterm review by the Special Committee on Decolonization, and no designation of any expert to track Guam's progress or lack thereof toward progressing off the UN list of non-self-governing territories, and no UN visiting mission to Guam. It is a sad commentary that the administering power year after year abstains or votes against UN resolutions addressing the question of Guam and resolutions reflecting the work of the UN on decolonization, including the resolution on the second international decade for the eradication of colonialism, as well as the very recently passed Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. With this non-support by the administering power, it's no wonder that the list of NSGTs under the administration of the US has turned half a century old with such little progress. We Chamorros come to New York year after year, appealing to the UN Decolonization Committee to follow through with its mandate. Indeed, the UN has collected almost 30 years of our testimony with nothing to show for it. I represent today the 3rd generation of Chamorro activists to appear before the UN, desperately trying to safeguard our supposedly inalienable right to self-determination. The failure of the US to honor its international obligations to Guam, the non-responsiveness of the UN Special Committee on Decolonization to our rapid deterioration, and the overall non-performance of relevant US and UN decolonization organs and officials combine to carry our small chance of survival to a final coffin. All this combines to elevate the human rights situation in Guam now as a matter not only of decolonization, but ethnic cleansing. Indeed, when future generations look upon these days, they might come to label Guam not merely a US colony, but a UN colony. To date, the Forum has deferred to the Special Committee. The time has come for the Forum to take the lead. To this end, we request the Forum take the following action. And though we recommend 3 things, because of brevity, I will only make one recommendation, the most important. We request the Forum to immediately sponsor an expert seminar in conjunction with the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination and the Special Committee on Decolonization to examine the impact of the UN decolonization process regarding the indigenous peoples of the non-self-governing territories, now and previously listed on the UN list of NSGTs. This seminar must be under the auspices of the Forum due to existing lamentable problems with the Secretariat of the Special Committee. We request that independent expert Carlisle Corbin be included in the seminar, as well as the UN Special Rapporteur on the human rights and fundamental freedoms of indigenous peoples. In solidarity, urgency, and increasing desperation, the Chamorro Nation and Indigenous Chamorro organizations of Guam, with support of many different organizations, including 3 with ECOSOC credential status. Thank you very much.